What you get when one of the largest RPG studios in the 90s gets a hold of a Nintendo IP? You get Super Mario RPG, probably the most unlikely combination in the gaming industry at the time. I mean, nowadays, there are a bunch of Mario RPGs out there from Paper Mario, Mario & Luigi, and now even Mario plus Rabbids, but back then, you mostly just associated Mario with jumping and the occasional kart racing. But Square thought otherwise, as they wanted to make a game that could break the Western market and get people to play an RPG. They tried before of making a beginner-friendly RPG with Final Fantasy Mystic Quest, and also delved their hands in making a Western-developed game with Secrets of Evermore, but quite honestly, I found these to be quite flimsy in my opinion. Super Mario RPG was definitely a bigger attempt to get people to play an RPG in the West, because quite simply, it's Mario for God's sakes. He's the biggest brand out there. At the time, most people recognized him more than Mickey Mouse, and probably now to this day. And if Mario's not going to get people to play an RPG, then who would? Though obviously, it worked. Super Mario RPG was a big success for Square, selling over 2 million units worldwide, and to this day, people still fondly remember this game. Me as well, because growing up as a wee little lad at 3 years old, I remember seeing my dad play Super Mario RPG. Me growing up, I would eventually start playing some Mario RPG games like Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door and Mario & Luigi Partners in Time. I would finally get my hands on Super Mario RPG, and I absolutely loved the game. I loved the wacky characters, I loved the environments, and I just love how everything fitted in the Mario world. Nothing felt out of place. And this is definitely a game I do play every once in a while. And seeing how we have a brand new remake on the way, I think it's time to take a look at the original Super Mario RPG and see if it still holds up today. So, let's begin. After a typical Bowser's kidnaps Peach and Mario must save the day, a giant sword comes right out of the sky and stabs Bowser's castle alongside separating Mario, Peach, and Bowser. Mario ends up in his own pad and decides to investigate and see if Peach is still at Bowser's castle, but turns out the sword is still there and he's actually sentient, claiming to be part of the Smithy Gang, as they plan to take over this world and block access to Bowser's castle. Mario decides to go back to the Mushroom Kingdom and tell the Chancellor of their current predicament, and the Chancellor basically just tells him, hey, go rescue Peach. Along the way, Mario meets with a tadpole named Mallow, a shy little guy who definitely doesn't have much confidence, and we actually learn that he's actually not a tadpole, but rather a cloud, from his own granddad, Fractusus. As Fractusus found Mallow at a very young age in a little basket, and basically just tells Mallow to go on this journey with Mario to essentially find his real parents. And also along the way, they meet up with Geno, a Star Warrior who placed his soul into a puppet in the quest to find the missing 7 star pieces. As you see, when the giant sword stabbed Bowser's castle, it also in the process stabbed the Star Road, a sacred road with the ability to grant wishes, and with it now broken, no wishes can be granted. So it becomes clear something even more overarching that our heroes must do in this quest. Eventually our heroes meet up with Bowser, and he joins up with us, though as a coping mechanism, he has them join under his Koopa army, because throughout the game, his army gets sorely beat up multiple times. I mean, each time you meet him, his army just gets smaller. And of course our heroes also meet with Peach, who's about to get wed to this guy named Booster, and oh my, how progressive. But anyways, the wedding gets called up because Booster doesn't know what a wedding is and Peach is saved, but she wants to join us on our journey to find the 7 missing star pieces. And that's the main story for Super Mario RPG after you save Princess Peach, is finding the 7 missing star pieces. We'll talk more about this in spoilers, but overall, it's a quite simple story. You understand the quest pretty well, some things change here and there, like rescuing Princess Peach to finding the 7 star pieces, but I think it's quite effective. And of course, if you compare this to other RPGs at the time, especially from Square, this is definitely pretty basic overall, but I personally don't mind that too much, primarily because at the end of the day, this is a Mario game being made into an RPG. And I mean, in the mainline 2D Mario games, it's mostly just, oh, Bowser kidnaps Peach, go rescue her. There's not really much of a story to begin with. So it's just nice to see a Mario game to have an actual cohesive story for once. And even if the story is too basic, what also helps in this game is the great character moments. There's definitely some great character interactions throughout the game. I like how Mario pantomimes throughout the game. I like how Bowser is seen as the comedic relief throughout the game, to which I believe this is the first time they treated Bowser as that comedic relief. And while Mallow is kind of the generic, shy person that needs to become courageous, he's still endearing to me. I just like his interactions with Mario. And you'd think Geno would be the stoic character and what have you, but no, he's actually quite chill. And Peach, oh my, she is quite sassy throughout this game. She's quite similar to her personality from the Mario comic that ran on Nintendo Power. And of course, there's a bunch of side characters that are great, and even the bosses are great as well. For example, when you meet Geno for the first time, there's a boss named Boyer that literally speaks in Yodel dialect. It's quite funny. Plus, I do also believe part of the reason why I like the characterization in this game also has to do with the localization, as Ted Woolsey, Square's main localizer at the time, handled the translation for this game, and he's definitely known to put his little own spin into his translations, and definitely is the case here with Super Mario RPG. So overall, yeah, the story's a little bit basic, but some great character moments and the localization do help this game. Let's move on to the gameplay, as it's definitely a turn-based RPG, what a surprise. But unlike Dragon Quest where you predetermine attacks from your party members, or the majority of Square games where they're active time battles, Super Mario RPG has your party members attack when it's their turn. But the key difference about Super Mario RPG is timed hits. When you press the A button at the right time, you can actually perform a stronger hit, which serves kind of as the critical hit of this game, yet there's actually no RNG of when you can perform a critical hit. You have to perform the time hits to do a stronger attack, to which the game heavily encourages you to do. And that's not to say RNG doesn't exist in this game, because there's some few moments of RNG here and there, but primarily you know when you're going to perform a strong hit when you know you timed your attacks well. And special attacks are also given a similar treatment. Sometimes some special attacks are your typical special attacks that do more damage, but most special attacks have you press the Y button rapidly or time your Y button at the right time, so on and so forth. So for sure, Square wanted to make sure that these turn-based battles are much more engaging in comparison to your typical RPG. Though that's not to say certain RPG mechanics don't show up here. For example, equipment is still a thing in this game where you equip your own armor set, your own weapons, and your own accessory. And of course they help increase attack, defense, agility, and what have you. And regarding the party in the game, you can only have up to 3 party members at a time, and you can't switch party members mid-battle. So in a way, you're essentially kind of forced to have 3 party members and commit to them throughout the game, even though there's 5 party members throughout the game. And I guess let's quickly talk about each party member. You first have Mario, who cannot be switched out through the game at all, and he attacks with his own fist, hammers, and shells. And he of course throws out fireballs and jumps on enemies. He's definitely his own unique class for sure. You also have Mallow, who's the magic user of this game, though kind of the beginner one, I have to add. Gino, who definitely hits hard, but is a bit of a glass cannon. Bowser, who also hits hard, but is quite slow, kind of like a warrior class in Dragon Quest. And Peach, who's the god tier healer of this game. And that's basically why my party setup is usually Mario Peach Gino or Mario Bowser Peach, because she can basically heal everyone all at once. And you might be wondering, why do I bench Mallow? I mean, Mallow becomes quite useless once you get Gino, Bowser, and Peach. Especially Peach because of her healing spells. And of course this is an RPG, so there's of course leveling up. And when you level up, your stats increase of course, but you can also additionally increase some certain stats like health, attack, or magic. And if you're worried about grinding or whatever, then don't worry about it. There's not that many times where you have to grind in Super Mario RPG. There was like about a handful of bosses I died to, but that was really about it. And the other half of the RPG experience being exploring the overworld pretty much works how it does. There's towns to explore where you can buy brand new equipment, rest at an inn, or talk to townsfolk to get a general idea to where to go next. There's wild areas where you can fight enemies or find treasure, and there's also a bit of dungeon crawling. And the one thing about Super Mario RPG is that there's no random encounters at all. Enemies appear in the overworld, and you can actually see them and attack if you want to. And on top of that, there's no bigger overworld in this game like Final Fantasy or Dragon Quest. But instead, Super Mario RPG has an overworld that's quite similar to the 2D mainline Mario games where you go from area to area, and the only way you progress if you complete the area. And sometimes this world map does give you little extra areas to explore for a side quest. So in some ways, it does condense itself as an RPG with some things being taken out from the RPG experience, but for the most part I find it to be quite serviceable for a Mario game. And in between the exploring the worlds, you also have these mini games to go through. They're kind of mandatory as you have to play through them, but there's no requirements of reaching a certain amount of goal. It's just something to give yourself a little bit of a break from all the fighting and exploration. And at the end of the day, it really does work out. And getting back to the dungeon, it's your typical dungeon crawler. You basically explore some areas, do some puzzles, and fight bosses every once in a while. Though my one complaint is some of the dungeons do have you backtrack to the beginning of the area just to get out. There's no way to use some item to get out the area. That would be my only complaint. And the puzzles are pretty nice, other than this one right here. I mean, I get it's a 3D game, kind of, but what the hell is this? I don't even know where I'm at. And I think it's good this time to talk about the graphics. Super Mario RPG is of course unique in that fashion as well, as rather than your usual pixel art, it's instead doing the Silicon graphic look akin to something like Donkey Kong Country. Even then, it's still a bit different from Donkey Kong Country, because of course Donkey Kong Country tries to use full-on models that try to look more realistic, while Super Mario RPG tries to go with a more toyetic look in my opinion. Everything looks all boxed in, everything looks like you're looking into a toy box, and I think it works quite well. I just like how everything looks all squished in, and because of the isometric perspective, it really does make it look like you're looking into a toy box. And maybe it's just my nostalgia. I really do like how the game looks. And as for the music, we have Yoko Shimomura handling the compositions for the game. And I know most people will recognize her for her compositions in Kingdom Hearts and even the later Mario RPG games like Mario and Luigi. And I get it for sure, her compositions in this game are quite similar to Kingdom Hearts and Mario and Luigi. But you can really say that most of her inspirations for the music of Kingdom Hearts and Mario and Luigi really do come from Super Mario RPG, as you have a lot of jazzy music, some more whimsical music, the more bombastic music. She definitely went on to try different kinds of genres of music, and definitely quite different from her previous works from Street Fighter 2 and of course Live Alive. And you really do get some great compositions from Hello Happy Kingdom, Beware of the Forest Mushrooms, and Fight Against an Armed Boss. See what I did there? Let's talk about the bosses, because you have a handful of them throughout the game, from the smaller bosses to the bigger bosses. Each of them work as you'd expect. They have a pattern, and you have to figure out how to take advantage of their pattern to essentially kill them pretty quickly. I do find some of them to be quite easy, but for the most part, I still had fun going up against these bosses, especially the Yoda dialect guy, seeing how he can disable certain attacks from you. So aside from the bosses, there's also a bunch of side quests throughout the game. There's a Yoshi race you can deal against this blue Yoshi named Boshi, to which if you actually win this race, you can actually get Yoshi as a summon, and don't feed him too much because you get this fat ass Yoshi right here, which I didn't do. There's also all these hidden blocks you can find, and there's some even smaller things like using your Mario special attack to jump on the enemies 100 times. And there's of course a few optional bosses, like this one behind the ominous door, and I guess it's time to talk about spoilers. Like I said, your main goal is trying to find the 7 star pieces. After saving Peach, that's basically the quest going forward. And this is where you also find out Mallow's actually the prince of the Cloud Kingdom. Currently right now, the Cloud Kingdom is being taken over by this bitch right here and her bird. And upon saving the Cloud Kingdom and finding out that the last star piece is at Bowser's Castle, the Cloud people help you to get over to Bowser's Castle to essentially take down the Smithy Gang. And it's definitely the longest dungeon out there with a bunch of boss fights as well. And of course you have to fight against Smithy, which is quite honestly pretty easy. But I say that because there's an even tougher boss being Culex, the optional boss that looks like a Final Fantasy enemy. I mean, quite honestly, this dude looks like Nomura went on his way and designed a boss for Mario. And the music that plays in the boss battle is legit the boss battle music from Final Fantasy IV, which is really damn cool. And if you beat him, the iconic victory fanfare from Final Fantasy plays in the background, which is pretty nice. But anyways, back to Smithy. Like I said, he's pretty easy, had a pretty easy pattern to follow. And when you beat him, you get the final star piece, Geno returns back to his place, Mallow becomes the prince, Bowser gets his castle back and his army, and Mario and Peach just enjoy a little R&R. Ending off Super Mario RPG. I have to say, Super Mario RPG is just one of those games that come out every once in a while. The special game that combines 2 things you never think would work. It just works somehow. Square just knew the things that make Mario work and things that make RPGs work, and figure out how to meld these 2 together into a perfect game, and that's basically what Super Mario RPG is. Obviously throughout this video I've went out my way and praised this game 24/7 because this is a game I grew up with. And I do acknowledge there's some few things that probably have aged here and there, but I really don't care. I just have way too much fun every time I go back and play this. I just love the wacky moments in the game, I love the time hits, and the music is just top tier overall. And with the remake coming out, I just can't wait to fall in love with this game again. So I do recommend giving the original game a try if you have the chance. Obviously cartridges go for pretty high prices, and emulation is not for everyone. But if you still have the chance to play the original Super Mario RPG, I definitely say do give it a try. Hey, thank you guys for sticking to the end of this video. And let me know what you think about Super Mario RPG down in the comments below. And if you like this video, consider hitting that like button. And if you want to see more videos, definitely check out these videos here. I think you'll enjoy them. See you guys on the next one. Take care.